Today we're going to do a quick and dirty bronze effect. So here I have this Slytherin emblem from Harry Potter. As you can see, I already primed it in black. So in order to get this to look like bronze in a quick and easy way, what I do is I get the bronzest colored paint I want. To dry brush, you load the brush up with paint, then you take almost all the paint off. And then, like you're dusting for fingerprints, I like to start away from the piece and bring it to the piece as I go. And as you can see, it starts bringing the raised areas out. It makes those raised areas bronze, and that's the effect we're looking for. We want the raised areas to be this bronze color and the recessed areas to be black. So this is a very, very quick and easy way to make any kind of plaque or anything to that effect look bronze. Like I said, you just you just prime it in black and then do the dry brush technique just to get those raised areas. Now you will get some areas that aren't raised. It's just the nature of the beast, especially when you're doing it the quick, dirty way. It doesn't take long at all. Lightly brush it over it. Now I learned this technique from my many years of doing models and miniatures. You know, you want to try to get those out on the table as quickly as you can when you're playing those tabletop games. So go ahead and this just shows how those techniques will carry over. Now, when you get to the side, go ahead and do the same thing. Just brush over the areas, get the raised areas. You're just trying to make the whole thing look like bronze, like it's a bronze plaque. That's the look we're going for on this. And go ahead and do that to your heart's desire when it's where you want it to be. When you're ready to call it good, it's good. How it looks once I put a quick dry brush of bronze over black. Like I said, very quick, very simple. And then in these areas, if you don't want the black or the bronze to bleed over in these areas, you can always go ahead and get some black, pour some of that out, then take another brush. I like to use round brushes for this. You can go in those areas where you don't want the bronze, just kind of fill those back in. Now, thing is, if you've ever seen bronze plaques, you know, the bronze is in all kinds of different areas. So just kind of give it that black wash until it looks the way you want it to. There's no right or wrong answer on this. But there are some areas to my eye that look too bronzed over, for lack of a better word. I just go ahead with a smaller brush and kind of color those areas in. That way the bronze pops a little more. It looks a little more realistic. I do see that it's a little darker as it dries, a little darker than I like. So I'll go in and get some more of that silver or bronze. Just glaze it over. Kind of brightens it up. Go back over and put the black in where I feel it needs to be. And that's the quick and dirty dry brush for bronze. Nice quick little technique. I always find helpful when I want to do a plaque and get it done quickly and nicely at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and set this aside, and I'll be right back for the next. Alright, we're going to do another quick and dirty video using this dry brush technique that we used in the previous video. But this one we're going to make it look a little more realistic, so to speak. So we have this Scream plaque this time. So I'm going to show you the quick and dirty way to do that. So anyone that's seen the Scream movies knows this mask is white. So you can go ahead and do the same dry brush technique, and I'll use the dry brush technique. Just dry brush on the high areas. Now the inner creases, don't really get into those too much, just the higher areas. And it'll look a little light at first, but we're going to take care of that. Right now you're just trying to highlight the areas. So now you see you got some highlights. Now you take black, same thing, thin it down or load it up, take most of it off, and then kind of go over those white areas you just did. So that'll make that white into a darker gray. Kind of gives a contrast that you get off of black material. You know, when the light hits it, you get a little bit of gray colors, gray tones. In the creases, it's more dark. On this quick and dirty way, we're not looking for 100% realism, but, you know, just trying to convey that image of some black material. See, in the folds it's a little darker, and if it's a little too light for your tastes, go ahead and load up black and use that dry brush in the folds. That'll darken it up. And it also kind of blends it in, makes it look a little more realistic. Like I said, we're not looking for 100% realism right this second. This is just a quick and dirty. Want to get the plaque up on the wall, then grab I would use a round brush for the eyes. Go ahead and dip that in black and just color in the black areas. Okay, we're gonna touch. All right, well, I went and touched everything up. Went ahead and painted those letters in. Now we're gonna go ahead and work on this back here. I want to make that look like wood. So we're gonna use the same dry brush technique. Just brush, load it up, go on your little dry brush pad, remove most of it, and then just dry brush the areas that I want to give the wood look to. I did paint the inside of those inlays with a copper color. I just kind of thought it would fit. You don't have to worry about getting all the way to the little hood here, because that creates like an artificial shadow. So just go ahead get that whole area so it looks, so you get the coverage you want. Like I said, we're kind of going for a wood look here. Get the edges, because that will show once it's hung. And when you as you run out of paint, go ahead and load the brush up. Like I said, you don't need a lot on there, just enough to get coverage. You can always add more. It's always easier to add than to take off. I mean, if you do get too much on, there are ways to take off, but I really try to avoid that because that's just an extra step. And especially when you're doing something like this, you're kind of doing the quick and dirty. Well, that's the whole point in this. Trying to be quick so you don't want to have to do extra steps. So now that we got that first coat of the wood area, so I started with a lighter brown. I'm going to go ahead and put a darker brown on there. Just kind of create a little bit of a wood grain effect. You'll be able to see in a second. And that's the thing about wood. You have to do it in layers, kind of wet blend it. Before the first layer fully dries, you go in and create streaks with the brush so it kind of simulates the wood grain. And it all depends on if you want a light wood, a dark wood. You just pick the colors accordingly. Like I'm going for a dark wood, so I started with light, and the streaks will kind of blend in with the dark. Give me that simulated wood grain effect. And there we go. I'll call that one done. So there's two quick and dirty wall plaques. You got the bronze, and you have a little figure, little bust. Okay, we'll be right back with the next bust. The next bust we're going to do in this quick and dirty style is this bust of Vecna from Stranger Things. So, from what I know, Vecna is supposed to look like someone that's skinned. So to get that effect, as you can see, I primed in red, and I would go ahead and dry brush with, I primed in black, but I would go ahead and dry brush with this red to get that first layer of kind of bloody, fleshy tone, kind of get in every crevice. Don't worry about if it goes into a place that you don't want it to. We can always paint over that. Get it down in the nooks and crannies. Get under the chin. Just get a good coverage, because that will just help you later down the line. So these are supposed to be, this is all supposed to be wood, so kind of leave as much as that left alone as possible. And you go ahead and let that dry. And then we have this zombie from The Walking Dead. I'm also gonna paint the flesh areas in red. Just give it that kind of rotting, bloody undertone. And see, and that's one thing to keep in mind is when you have a bunch of these to do every color at a time. So you know these two have red, so get all the red done at once. It's just going to help you later down the line. And the stuff like teeth and whatnot, I'm not worrying about if I get red on it or not, because we're going to clean that up later. This is the nice quick process. So right now we're just focusing on anywhere that would need some red. Basically any fleshy areas. Then we have this Demigorgon, and I know there's going to be red in there. Let's go ahead and get that red sorted out. It's okay if you leave some black. That kind of, as I said, should create some shadows. You can always touch things up later, but we're also going to blend the other colors in so it looks more realistic. This method, it's not going to win any awards, but it's a nice, quick way to get something out there, something done. Like I said, if you have a Halloween party and you want quick decorations, you know, your kids just want some quick items. You know, this isn't a win any awards type thing. This is just quick and dirty. And as you're working on one, the other one will dry. So then you start to see how it darkens up. And I'm kind of looking for that. So now what I'll do, I'll get some flesh tone. And I know Vecna has some flesh tones in there. Like there's these veins and bumps. I'll go ahead and this is where the dry brush really shines. Because you're just trying to get these subtle bumps. You're not trying to fill it in, so to speak. As you can see, it's starting to pop out. And it's okay if the paint's a little wet, that kind of helps. It helps it blend in some, not too wet though. If it's too wet, it just bleeds together and you get a big mess. But just a little bit. And another way you can speed up the drying process is go ahead and grab a hair dryer. Give it a quick blast with the hair dryer. And then you can start picking out some of the highlights. Areas you might want more of this flesh tone in. Okay, and that looks good as far as flesh goes. So go on to the next piece with flesh. Now the second layer, the goal is not to cover up the bottom layer. It's just to get the raised areas. Hit it with the hair dryer a bit. Like I was saying, the goal is just hit the raised areas with the flesh so that that red undertone is still there. It's kind of gives it that bloody effect. And we will wash these with inks and whatnot. Kind of give it more of a gross, slimy, creepy look. But like I said, you go in layers. It makes it go so much faster and easier. Okay. Now this one has a lot more flesh tone to it. I can get around the lips here. Well, I don't know if that's what they actually are, but that's what I'm calling them. And you can see it's getting all over the teeth, but I'm not worrying about that because the teeth will be done when that time comes. That's probably one of the last things I'll do. And that's one of the things about doing it in layers. You get the bottom layers of the piece first. That way, as you're going through, you can add to it. So I did the red first to get the very bottom, which would be the red inner part of the mouth. Now I'm going over and getting the lips, which is a layer above that. And then I'll go over the teeth when we get to that layer. So I think I'm going to make this whole thing a little bit of a flesh tone. We're going to use some purple washes and stuff like that to kind of make that pop, but I do think this would look good as a all flesh tone. There is a method to my madness. A lot of you guys watching probably won't remember the band Iron Maiden, but the song Can I Play With Madness just popped in my head. Yep. I'm old. Oh, getting there. And go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and paint this whole thing a flesh tone. Then we'll go back over it with different washes and colors to kind of make it pop. Now, some people might not like this method, and that's fine. There's many methods. We're going to go over many methods on this channel. This is just a way to get it done very, very, very quickly. It works great for miniatures. If you're into tabletop games, to get a bunch of miniatures on the table at once without spending hours upon hours painting them. Although I enjoy painting. Okay, so there's the flesh tone on that. Maybe a little more here. And that's one good thing to do. Go ahead and look at your pieces. Pick them up, look at them, and add. I do that with every color. When I think I'm done, I pick it up and look at it and you always see places that can be fixed. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the video now, and we'll be back with some detailing. All right, we're back. We just did the bases on these, base coats I should say, and I did the white highlights. So what we're gonna do now is go through and paint the details. Like over here is some wood. We're gonna go ahead and give that a wood color real quick. And we're using all the dry brush techniques as we have been. So go ahead and, well, that's a little too much paint, but the nice thing is if you put too much paint, you can always spread it out. And go ahead and dry brush these wood areas. As you can see, I use the workbench as a palette a lot. Some people wouldn't like that, but I say, hey, it's a workbench. Go ahead. And once again, I'll do all the same color at once on each model. So this one, basically this whole background here is brown, like a brown wall. It is going to have some vines on it, and we'll make those a different color a little bit here. But like I said, it's always easiest to go one color at a time per each model. So I'm hitting the brown on this one. Now I'll go over here and see what I want to use for brown. This has a brown background, another brown wall. Go ahead and paint that nice and quick. Like I said, you're going to get on other places. You can always touch that up. Make this machete handle brown. So, you get the gist of it. Go through each different color on each model until to get the base coats. Like I did all the brown. Next I'll do all the red, the white, so on and so forth. So I'm gonna go ahead and get everything blocked in, and we'll be back. Alright, I went ahead and blocked in all these colors. So now we're gonna go ahead and do some details. So the first detail I want to do, since it's a larger one, is this blade on this machete. So I'll just get a silver paint and paint it. Might look a little stark to begin with, but we're going to tone all that down with washes and whatnot. Just, you know, like I said, this is a very rudimentary paint job, meant for just getting it out quickly. So just so if it looks good from arm's distance, that's what we're looking for. We're not looking for something to win some kind of award or anything. So then now we'll go to the details, like the eyes. What I like to do with eyes, if I want them to look a little more dead, I paint the whole eye socket with a black. It's kind of like that. I'm going to do the same thing with the zombie. Don't worry about the irises or anything like that initially. Just get your base color. And for a more realistic eye, I start with white. But these are zombie types, so we'll start with the black. Kind of gives it that dead zombie eye look. Okay, go ahead and we'll let that dry. Now I'm going to paint the zombie's teeth. They're already painted white here, but we want to give them kind of a grosser look. So I like to use variations of tan and yellows, anything that makes them look kind of yellowed and gross. And also when we get to the wash stage, that'll add some color to it and give it more of a gross look. So this is just a little bit of tan mixed with white. Give it that look. And then for the irises on these, I'm going to go with a yellow. It's a matter of preference. You can use whatever color you want. But for these, for the zombie look, I'm going to use yellow. Go ahead and put that in the iris. And I like to dot it in. That way it gives it less of a coloring book type look, more of a blended in look. Go ahead and do the same with this guy. Now with this eye shape, I just did a half circle. Just kind of. And sometimes yellow takes 2 coats or more. It's a very translucent type color. Go ahead and then go around and do all the other details. Like for these vines on this guy, we can take a green with a dry brush and just dry brush over the green for the vines. Nice and easy. Go ahead and hit every vine. So for this zombie, we want to get like a bloody look. So there's these holes. Go ahead and fill that with watered down red paint. If it bleeds over, that's okay. It's a little more of the effect. Go ahead and hit these crevices in the skull. Now these are just the bases of the gore. We're going to go ahead with washes and get more of a gory look with different colors, purples, greens, all kinds of colors. And then along the skull, just paint some gore. I want to give these bumps a gory look. Okay, and this guy I already did the teeth. So we're at the stage for the washes, and I like to do that with translucent colors. Like, get some purples, some reds, some yellows. Let's start with the yellow. That would be more for the zombie, to give it a slimy, pus type look. So get some translucent paint or inks, whichever the case may be, and just start spreading it on there. And if it looks a little too thick for your liking, and it's okay if it mixes with the paint, it kind of pulls off the effect and blends things. And if it's a little too thick, go ahead and add some water to thin it out. Now these translucent paints will dry fairly translucent, hence the name. So initially to look a little more stark, but once they dry, it'll be more transparent. Go ahead and get all these little pus marks, mix it in with that bloody color, and I'll water it down. See, that's a little stark for my liking, but what I like to do is spread it around. Add some water. And then I'll take a rag, or in this case an old t-shirt, and just pat it. Take some of that starkness away. You can see I got it on the black a little. Just add some water. Makes it run into the crevices. Gives it a grimy look. So that's the first color I use on that for the pus and slimy look. So for these, we're gonna take a little bit of a different approach. They're supposed to look fleshy, so we'll get some pinks. Go ahead and get a nice wide brush and just kind of rub it over the whole thing. Now it may look a little funny initially, a little bright, but we're going to tone all that down. The point now is to just try to get different colors and variations. And go with pink on this one. Like I said, it's just, we're not trying to be too particular at this stage. Then after the pinks, I'd probably go ahead and put some purples in there. And like I said, it's okay if the colors mix. It brings more of a gradient type effect. And when we do our final wash, which will be a black or dark brown or something to that effect, that'll kind of dull all these bright colors down and give it a better effect. And once you're happy with all your fleshy colors, go ahead and just pat it. It makes those veiny areas pop out and stuff stays in the recesses. Okay, we can go ahead and let this dry and we'll be back. Okay, now that those are all dry, what we're going to do is go ahead and give everything a real quick black wash. So that's just really watered down black paint and just run it over the whole thing. What that's doing, as you can see, is getting into the recesses, creating shadows, giving it more of a realistic look. And what I like to do is just, I work around the outside, and that's all model dependent. I mean, some models you work around the outside, other ones might be better working on the inside out. But this one I'm going to work from the outside in. Just trying to get that black into every crevice that I can. Bring out these highlights. As you can see, some of it's a little too dark. So what I do is I just spread it around and then I just take water and push that wash where I need it. Like I said, I get the whole thing. Then you can go ahead with your rag, paper towel, whatever you're using, and blotch up the excess. You're trying to keep it in the recesses. So that's done with a final wash. You know, do that to your heart's desire. Sometimes a brown will work better than a black, sometimes a red. It all depends. But on these, we're trying to make things pop out, and I found black really helps things to pop. If I was going a little more in depth, I'd use multiple layers of washes, but the whole point of this video was to show you how to do it quick and dirty, just to get it on the table, on the wall, whatever the case may be, quickly. Make sure you get the base to get just the whole thing with the wash, because that'll pick up every crevice and it'll just give it that much more detail. See how the wash kind of blends all those colors in. Go ahead and pat it. Okay, and we'll let that dry and we'll be back. So here's the finished product. So between these 3 busts and the other 2 we did previously in this video, it's a total of 45 minutes of work with the paint job. That's a nice quick way to get a piece out quickly if you need to. You know, you got a gift in a pinch or decorations for a party or whatever the case may be. This is just a quick, easy way to get things done. Hope you all find this helpful. Go ahead and hit that like, subscribe button, and let's go make something.